32, very nearly. Cardiovascular disease, one of the leading causes of death throughout the United Kingdom. Got a stat here. 170,000 lives are lost to cardiovascular disease, or CVD, as we can call it through its abbreviation. Here's the contention. If we could get some kind of screening going on that might highlight problems with our cardiovascular system, how many could we save? A contention of 80% of those lives could be saved by such a screening test. And there's a company called PocDoc, which has invented a test. Apparently you can do it at home, and it reveals all sorts of data about the state of your body and in particular your cardiovascular system. Steve Roest is the Chief Executive Officer. We need to explore more. Steve, good morning. Welcome to you.
Hello, Martin. How are you?
I'm very well, actually. And look, there's a slight vested interest, I will admit to the listeners. They know this. I've got 4 stents in my heart. So I dodged a bullet many years ago. I'm fine. But anything to do with heart health, of course, I suppose, pricks my interest. This healthy heart check, first of all, how does it work?
So PocDoc works with the NHS across the UK. We screen thousands of NHS patients every month with our wonderful NHS partners. And the healthy heart check itself is far more than just a cholesterol profile. In 10 minutes, it allows anybody at home or in workplaces or communities to get a full picture of their overall cardiovascular health. It does include a full cholesterol profile, your BMI, and your NHS heart age, and critically, your 10-year risk of having a heart attack or stroke, all within 10 minutes.
What's my heart age? I hadn't heard of such a stat before.
So it uses the information that we gather during the test, including the blood values, to determine what your actual heart age is. It's an NHS algorithm, and we're lucky to be one of the very few businesses, health tech businesses in the UK, that are allowed to integrate with this NHS algorithm. And it's a really intuitive way for everybody to understand where they stand. So, for example, if you're 55, but your heart age is 52, you know that your overall general health is actually quite good. Obviously, the inverse, if you're 55 and your heart age is 62, you know there might be something that you need to follow up
on. So it's a very useful metric to see and maybe make some adjustments to your lifestyle as accordingly. And, I'm reading this is just one little blood sample, and it goes into, well, what? You then use the smartphone. How do you get the blood into the smartphone? Tell me more.
At PocDoc, we're very proud to be one of the fastest growing health tech businesses in the UK. We were born and bred in Cambridge and incubated in the NHS. And the technology that we've developed is referred to as a microfluidic assay, which I understand is slightly technical, but it allows us to generate color values depending upon the levels of blood biomarkers in your system, which we then can interpret using our digital image analysis technology through a mobile app. And this is the first time, we are the first company to be able to do this using blood anywhere in the world. And we're a British startup technology success story.
Okay, and given all those caveats, the cynic in me has to say, how reliable is the conclusions, are the outcomes that your system produces?
So we've done all of our clinical safety work, all of our clinical accuracy work in partnership with the NHS. We hold ourselves to the highest possible level in that regard, and we're accepted as a screening tool to screen thousands of NHS patients every single month. And actually, as of today, we're now launched nationwide in well pharmacies. So if anyone would like to go and get a test, they can obviously walk into any well pharmacy or go to well.co.uk and order a healthy heart check. But we take accuracy very, very seriously, and we have GPs and other NHS professionals using our test very happily day in, day out across the country with great patient feedback. In fact, 97% of all patients that have ever been screened using the PocDoc Healthy Heart Check said that they would recommend it to a friend or family member as a much more convenient way to get a health check done than going to the GP.
How often do you suggest a patient should check themselves? Because we don't want to encourage sort of the worried well or paranoia, do we?
No, and we don't want people wandering around with hundreds of finger pricks either in their hands. So it depends very much on your overall risk profile. So someone like yourself that has pre-existing heart conditions, you may want to keep a closer eye on things. Someone who has no underlying health conditions, maybe slightly younger, that doesn't need to be something that's screened particularly regularly. It's really up to the individual. There are some NHS guidelines around this. But we really, and we refer to those. But the main thing, as you say, is to avoid anyone panicking. And I think that's why we've developed the Healthy Heart Check as it is, to provide as much information, whether it's the heart age, whether it's the overall risk score, so that you can get a full picture of your health and then determine what is.
And you don't obsess about one particular stat in this. Now, look, although you've been working with the NHS, at this moment, this isn't available on the NHS. I'm going to have to pay a fee for this, am I, Steve?
Oh, no, that's completely, that's incorrect, actually, Martin. So we screen thousands of NHS patients across the country every single month. And in those areas and those programs where we are working with the NHS, it's obviously free at the point of care. However, as you alluded to in your opening statement, PocDoc is very aware of the huge issue around cardiovascular disease in this country. In fact, one of the motivations for me to start the company was the fact that my father almost died at the same age I am now due to undiagnosed cardiovascular disease. So I'm very familiar with the impact it can have. And it's such a huge problem for the country. It's the single biggest killer of women over 50, and it's the single biggest killer of anyone in the UK. And yet it's 80% preventable. And that's why PocDoc exists, to be able to increase access to this vital healthy heart check to anybody all over the country. And that's why we've chosen to partner with Well Pharmacy, launching today nationwide to increase access to that test.
But just to complete the sort of cost of this, if it's not in an area where you're working with clinicians in the NHS, I would just like to do it privately. I'm happy to pay the fee. What do I pay?
$19.99 is what it's currently being listed for.
Well, that's not too dear, is it? Just to get the reassurances you've been outlining. For 20 quid, I can just check myself out.
Actually, it's a penny less than 20 quid, unless you can get your
Yes, okay, Steve. Well, look, it's an interesting development, and it is an area of, I'm fascinated by the ability of the science and technology worlds to come together in this way. So it's a fascinating development. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us. We'll wish you all the best.
Martin, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's Steve Roest. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the organisation PocDoc. And the thing to look for or ask your doctor about is the Healthy Heart Check. You may find your surgery does it anyway. If not, you can do it yourself.
LBC News.